Hi sewing friend, it's Carolina with alwaysexpectmore.com, and today I'm making hair scrunchies with a method you may never have seen before, and it is really the simplest way and no hand sewing way to make hair scrunchies in a snap. You ready? Let's get started. You'll need a 4.5 inch wide piece of fabric, and it should be at least 12 inches long. I went with 18 inches on this one because that's how wide my fabric was. It was just a half yard cut of fabric and I just cut it across the bottom. But you can do 20 inches because that's the length of a fat quarter, whatever you want. Pretty simple, but it needs to be 4.5 inches wide. And then you need a 9-inch piece of elastic and a bodkin. And that's gonna be pretty much it in addition to your sewing machine. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this in half and we're gonna sew. And here's the crazy thing that we're gonna do. We're gonna sew all the way across, more than halfway, about 3/4, and then we're gonna leave ourselves about a 3-inch opening, and then we're gonna stitch the rest of the way across. And this opening is key for this method of making a scrunchie. So I'm going to just overlap these ends, put it on my sewing machine, and sew. All right, I'm somewhere near the end. Needle up, presser foot up. Just gonna move it forward a couple inches. 3 inches, 4 inches is good. Do my presser foot down again. And go the rest of the way. Super simple, right? Now I'm gonna take my bodkin and I'm gonna tuck it inside of my loop, or inside of my casing here, and I'm going to close it so that it grabs the edge. And then I'm going to bring it up my tube until I get to the top. And I'm not bringing it all the way right side out. I just want it so it's kind of folded in half here. And I'm gonna open up this end here. And I wanna line up these two ends. Now here comes the tricky part, and you're welcome to use a 5-inch or 6-inch piece of fabric if that makes it easier. I'm gonna tuck this part underneath my presser foot so that I stitch not through all 4 layers, but just through 2 layers that are right sides together, and I'm gonna go all the way around and close up this end. So I'm just tucking this really carefully, and this is why you need at least a 4.5 inch piece, because it needs to be able to wrap around your presser foot. You want to hold the top part out of the way while you carefully stitch all the way around. It's okay if your seam allowance isn't perfect. What matters is that this is stitched all the way around and that you've overlapped here at the end. And now here comes the magic. Now, had I done this really smart, I would have done it so that my open end was here on this end. I didn't. My open end is going to be on the other side, my little opening that I left in my seam allowance. So I need to flip this the other way around until I find my opening, and there it is. So this is that opening that I left when I did that first stitch, and I'm turning everything right side out through that opening. And look at this, magically, I have a perfect tube to make my scrunchie. So now I use my bodkin, put my elastic on the end of my bodkin, find that hole that I flipped everything through, and when you do this, you just want to make sure that you hold on to the end so that you don't lose your end and have to start all over again. Now, if you don't have a bodkin, a safety pin will work as a bodkin replacement. You're going to take your two ends of your 9-inch piece of elastic and just give yourself a good overhand knot. No need to stitch or worry about stitching, and you can have, a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of overlap there. And now your scrunchie is pretty much done. You could just use it like this if you wanted. I have been guilty of doing that myself. Or you can just take it, close this up, and now you can hand stitch this if you want, and hand stitching this is way easier than hand stitching where the two pieces come together. Or, super simple, you can bring this underneath your sewing machine and stitch this edge closed. And it's practically invisible even with a non-coordinating thread like I used. And if you really want it to be less visible, you can even bring that seam in towards the elastic so that it's not seen from the outside. And just like that, super simple to make scrunchie with 0 hand sewing at all. And that's how simple it is to make a hair scrunchie in just a couple minutes. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I've got lots more fun sewing and quilting goodness coming your way right here real soon.